we got the Xiaomi 10 Ultra. So the question is this phone worthy of the Ultra name? Let's find out. I'm Rio Gion and welcome to the channel. So talking specs, I'm surprised they used the Snapdragon 865 instead of the 865 Plus. For an Ultra phone, I'm surprised they didn't use the most powerful chipset. You got a 120Hz refresh screen, which is nice. Again, you only get a 1080p screen, but you have something like the S20 Ultra, and that phone can only do 120 at 1080p unless they patch it to make it work with 1440p as well. For a phone that has a dual SIM slot, I'm shocked they didn't make the extra SIM slot work with a micro SD card. I think having microSD expansion isn't that much of a high cost that they would include it. I think flagship phones trends is getting ridiculous because they're taking away too many freaking features in the name of a high-end chipset. First, they took away the headphone jack and the IR blaster, which I actually use. They're slowly phasing out microSD, and now they're thinking about taking away charging cables and power brick. I mean, come on! What if people need those? They really need to consider giving people the options instead. For a flagship phone to be 1080p, I don't have a problem with that, as long as the price is right. Technically, the price is right, but it does depend on where you're from. This phone is priced at 5,299 to 6,999 yuan. So, depending on the specs you get, this roughly translates to 760 to 1,000 bucks. For 760 bucks, it's actually not that bad considering the specs you're getting, but the kicker is the storage. You get 128 gigs with 8 gigs of RAM. Honestly, I actually think this is enough for most people, but it's too little for me. The problem is that it actually might be too little for you if you store a lot of ROMs for your emulators. The one I would get is the 512 gig with 16 gigs of RAM. The RAM doesn't matter, but the 512 gigs of storage is actually pretty freaking good. I'm guessing that it's the one for 1K, but something tells me that it might actually be more. You know, when it comes to the specs, the phone that immediately comes to my mind is the OnePlus 8 Pro. For roughly the same price, you get a 1440p screen. The downside to the OnePlus 8 Pro is that the storage only goes up to 256 gig. Believe it or not, I was actually planning on getting the OnePlus 8 Pro. Then I saw they did not have the 512 gig option, and I passed on it. On second thought, I think I probably would need more than 512 gigs just because if I were to get a newer phone with better spec, then I can run Dolphin emulator, which means I would need a lot more storage to store GameCube and Wii games. Another phone for around the $800 price is the Asus ROG Phone 3. So from what I see, the ROG 3 goes for 840 bucks. This means with an extra 80 bucks, you get a Snapdragon 865 Plus. If we're doing straight comparison to the Xiaomi 10 Ultra, the downside is that if you're in the USA, the customers might have to do some kind of like import fee. So I believe the Xiaomi is either a Chinese phone only or like an international phone, but not for the US. Also, for the ROG 3, you're getting a 144 Hz with 1440p. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that might be worth the jump if you really care about the screen. In terms of the camera, I think they're benchmarking the S20 Ultra, so you can expect the camera to perform pretty well. There's a 120x zoom, which beats the Samsung's 100 zoom, so you can brag to your friends about having a larger zoom. On the selfie side, you get a 12 megapixel 2x zoom to get those fine details, or most likely some kind of beauty mode to fix those imperfections. For the main camera, camera, there's also 8K recording, which is a nice feature similar to the S20 Ultra, but it's probably a gimmick. If you care for phone cameras, I think this phone is actually pretty good for the price as well. Personally, I still think if you want high quality camera, it's probably still better to buy a dedicated camera than using a phone camera. I like phone cameras for their flexibility because there's a higher chance that you have your phone with you. Then you're bringing in a dedicated camera. Well, I mean, unless you're like a vlogger or like a photographer, then I'm pretty sure you will carry a dedicated camera everywhere you go. Gotta make those videos. I'm surprised the phone only has a 4500 milliamp battery. I would think they would at least go with a 5000 milliamp because the S20 Ultra has a 5000 milliamp. I think the good news here is that you get the 120 watt super fast charging. I think they went with the OnePlus approach of having lower milliamp but gives you faster charging speed. With the faster charging speed, the only thing I'm afraid of is the battery life in the long run. Like for people that charge their phone overnight with super fast charging, I don't think it would be that useful at all. One of the things that I thought about is the amount of time the battery's being charged. Let's say you charge your phone once a day. That's 365 charges per year. I hope they thought about this because the people that are going to keep their phones for a long time, I hope your battery is still relatively good. If you're watching this a long time from now, let me know. Overall, for the price, I think it's pretty good for a flagship phone. Just like how the OnePlus 8 Plus Pro, OnePlus 8 Pro It's a pretty good flagship phone. I still can't believe we live in a world where flagship phones for $800 is considered value. Oh well, I guess this is something that I'm gonna have to get used to. Honestly, I think we as a consumer should really do something about this because flagship phones are costing more and taking away features that are really useful for us so that they can upsell us. Let's say, the headphone jack. They took that one away. They sell us wireless headphones. They took away micro SD expansion so they can sell us higher storage devices. From a business perspective, I get it. They want to make more money. From the consumer perspective, that freaking sucks because we have to pay more money. Let me know what you guys think. Would this be a phone that you would buy? If this is your first time, click subscribe, the bell, thumbs up for more content. You guys stay awesome.